Hi, welcome back to the Scale with Joy podcast. I'm here with Yuri Elkaim, and he is a healthpreneur. He was a former soccer player, professional soccer player, which is so interesting. He's the CEO and founder of Healthpreneur, a leading coaching and training company that helps health practitioners and coaches grow to 7 and 8 figures with their coaching business online. So welcome, Yuri. It's so nice to connect with you.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're also a father of 4 boys,
Yeah.
and a husband.
hmm
That's incredible.
Yes, it's busy households, but apparently I love growth because there's a lot of challenges that come with that, and it's great. So
Yeah,
it's fun times.
it's so fun. I have 2 boys, 16 months apart, and
Nice.
yeah,
You know what it's like.
I know the crazy. Yeah, that can ensue, but I find it pretty character building, even in the moments
Totally.
where I'm probably not at my best, like when they tear apart, something that I thought looked really nice. But
hmm
it's really, really good to have those moments.
Yeah.
So I know you tell me a little bit about just what brought you to today. You have both a health background as well as a fitness, as well as an entrepreneur, being able to scale as an entrepreneur.
hmm Yeah. So, I mean, my journey started, I think, when I was 10. I wanted to play professional soccer. That was my dream when I was a kid. So I dedicated the next 10 years to hopefully making that happen and made a lot of sacrifices, gave up family vacations to train and play. And in my early 20s, I was able to play professionally for 3 years, which is awesome. But when I was 16, just about 17, I lost all of my hair to an autoimmune condition. And that was a bit of a wake up call for me because although I was active and fit, I wasn't healthy. I grew up with just not the best dietary choices, and, subjected to antibiotics and a whole slew of vaccines and stuff. But anyways, my body just became a bit of a wasteland. So I didn't realize, like, I didn't recognize why all this was happening when I was that age. So it really prompted me to get into health and understand, like, how could I solve this for myself? So that really, the combination of like soccer and fitness plus like this health issue really moved me in that direction of pursuing studies in kinesiology and health sciences. Then I went back to school afterwards, finishing that to get my degree in holistic nutrition. And it was really just first and foremost to like solve my own issue. And I was like, I'm not finding the answers I wanted from the doctors. All the solutions were like, let's inject some cortisone into your head. I was like, let's not do that. So I started to learn a lot about nutrition, and I got very, very passionate about that. And through my own learnings and application, I was able to regrow my hair and kept my head shaved the whole time, but my eyebrows and everything came back. And then obviously I don't have any now. It's because a couple of years ago, long story short, got another tetanus shot and then my hair fell out again, whatever. So that's kind of what started me into this journey. And then I started training clients after I finished playing professional soccer and working with them on a nutrition basis. And I really enjoyed seeing their transformation. But the challenge was that I very quickly got into trading time for money, like 12 to 14 hours a day. And that became very, very exhausting. So after doing that for about 7 years, I was like, you know what, there's got to be a better way. And there was, I guess, at some point, 2006, I started my business online to share my message with more people and see if I could get more leverage and impact. And it took me a long time to get leverage and impact and traction because I thought I could do everything by myself. And so I started off in 2006 just creating programs like nutrition and workout wise that people could purchase from our website. And I didn't know anything about marketing and business. Eventually, I got some coaching and mentorship and built that business to multiple 7 figures. We helped 500,000 customers around the world. I wrote a New York Times bestselling book and was on Dr. Oz and all this stuff, whatever. And I got to a point where our business was very successful on the surface.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, I felt like this was a friggin' nightmare. Like there was way too much complexity. There's way too many product lines. It was crazy. And during that time, I had a lot of people in our space ask me for business advice because they saw like what we were doing. And I was like, there seems to be a big demand for health professionals to like build a better business online. So I started Healthpreneur 6 years ago because of that. And in that process, sold my previous company. So now I'm exclusively focused on Healthpreneur. But our mission is to help 1 billion people on the planet. And I realized that if I can help other health professionals build better businesses that in turn can help not only them live a better quality of life, but help more people, then I think we'll get closer to that goal. So that's really what brought me to today. I love what I do. Like, I absolutely love it. And I'm just very blessed for doing meaningful work that impacts people's lives, and, being able to be on podcasts and, like stuff like this and share the message is what I love to do. So yeah, that's the journey in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it's so aligned with what I love to talk about here on this podcast, because having scaled multiple businesses myself, there are times where it was so stressful and so hard and it was chaotic, or you had financial surprises because of the way that it was structured. And then there's been other times, like right now, I'm in the process of scaling a multi-7-figure business as well. And it feels fun and
Mhm.
light. And there are so many components of it that, yes, are intellectually challenging, but also very joyful. And I think that that's a really important conversation that is often missing
Mhm.
in the internet marketing space, in the world of how many commas are in your comma club award. So I think that,
Yeah.
as we're talking about this, I love that you're really bringing up the health component of it. And I know, like, what are some of your personal practices as an entrepreneur that you utilize in order to stay in that centered space?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm about to say is also reflective of the season that I'm in my business. I don't know if it was like this when I first started, because I do think there's a time where you have to put in a little bit more hard work, but I also don't think you should compromise your health in the process of it.
Yeah.
And also, like, I always found this kind of ironic. Like, a lot of health professionals, their number one complaint is burnout. I'm like, do you guys see the irony in this? It's like,
Right.
so yeah. So now, I mean, like, the most important thing I can do with my time is teach, coach, and think. Like, those are really the only three things I should be doing. And when I look at those, the biggest thing I can do is really just fill up my cup and make sure I'm taking care of myself. So first thing I do in the morning, I wake up at 3:48 a.m. every morning, and basically I've got a process where I do a 3-minute cold plunge, which I absolutely love. However, recently I turned a chest freezer into our cold plunge, right? So there's a whole process there. It's honestly, I'm the worst DIY person on the planet. I thought to myself, I'll take this on as a personal project. After a couple of months, I realized there's a bit of a leak in the bottom of the chest freezer. So now I'm like, on the whatever. I got to fix that somehow. So before this happened, I was cold plunging every morning at 4 a.m. It's like the last thing you want to do is jump into ice water. But I'm a big believer in doing hard things because I think it prepares us for how to deal with harder things in life. So I like putting myself in situations, not only from a health perspective, but also if I can sit in ice water or 4 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes and focus on deep breathing and center myself, I can probably handle other things that come up in life. So that's what I started off. That's how I typically start off my mornings. Now it's like a cold shower. And then I'll get into a couple minutes of just writing out one page of gratitude goals. So these are essentially, what are the things I want to be, do, and have in my life as if they've already been achieved, and I write them down as if I'm retroactively looking back on them. And I love doing that because it helps me focus on why I'm here, right? In terms of
Mhm.
my vision, what's important to me. And it changes every day. Like, sometimes I write down the same things, other times it changes. And it's really cool actually to look back on this several months later to be like, oh wow, this thing that's currently my reality I was writing about a couple months ago. So I love that
Wow.
practice of taking 5 to 10 minutes every morning first thing. Once that's done, then it's like 2 hours to 3 hours of focus work. And that's my most important stuff. So it's, working on, so like right now we're working on a new deliverable for our clients. So I'm, building that out in the mornings. I just finished writing a book, which I wrote in the mornings. So usually, like, my most creative time is that, 5 to 8 a.m. time in the morning. I get my most important work done. And then if I'm focused, I'm done for the day. Like, really, like, everything else after that is, I can jump on Clubhouse for a bit, or I can do interviews like this, or I can go for a 3-hour walk and do team meetings if, I've got meetings on that day, or I can just go outside and go for a walk and clear my head and do some thinking. After I've done this work, I'm typically working out as well. So I'll jump on my Peloton bike or getting in a workout. But I tell my wife this, I'm like, and she knows this about me, obviously, but if I'm working out, that's part of my workday. If I go for a 3-hour walk, I'm not just going, like, to whatever. It's actually part of my process to clear my mind to step away from the computer, because I think we all recognize at some level that the brilliance doesn't happen when we're typing the keyboard. It's when we kind of remove ourselves. And so I really try to bake a lot of that into my day. And then for me, it's like, I've got a team of 26 people now. So I shouldn't be doing a lot of things other than the things that I mentioned, like, which is teaching, coaching, and then kind of thinking strategically. So that's what my day looks like. And then obviously I do my best to eat well. I'm not fanatic, or as fanatic as I used to be back in my health and nutrition days. But I feel great. I feel really, really good. And I'm energized, I would say, more so by my purpose than by my nutrition. But the nutrition definitely supports that, because, like, you can't sustain great things in business if you're unhealthy. So I think it's really, really important to take our health as serious as we do our business, because you can have an amazing business, but if you die or if you're sick and you can't operate, then what's the point? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or smile during a podcast when you hear kiddos in the background, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
he's
is.
21 months now. So he's at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's at that
Yeah.
stage. Yeah, it's fun.
It's awesome. And you know what? I think we are in a place now where we can embrace all the things that are happening in the background of us running a business or being on a podcast from a level of transparency and authenticity. My business partner, Kelly Roach, always says, don't pretend that you're in a glass castle when you're running a 3-ring circus. Like, I think it's actually really good for anybody who's listening to know that, that's something to be expected. And not feel like it shouldn't be that way, right? And so that's really cool.
And that's the other reason that I get up early, because I've got 4 boys, and like, if I wake up to this first thing in the morning, I'm not going to be in the right headspace. So having that space to focus on me and fill up my cup and do what I need to do, it's like, even if the rest of the day is a crapshoot, at least I got my most important stuff done, including like centering myself and taking care of that stuff.
That's so important. Can you give me an example of the be, do, have? Like, I love that practice. And I think just myself or listeners would love to just kind of see how you work through that process.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us are hardwired to focus on, like, I want this, right? Like, whether it's the thing or the things, and those are all like haves. Cool. Let's work backwards. Okay, what do I have to do to have those things, right? So let's focus on the process of activity of what's going to move the needle the most. But most people stop there. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I've also looked at myself to say, okay, like, how am I showing up? Who do I have to be in order to do those things? So for me, in order to do the things I know I need to do, I need to be the type of person that gets up early and who focuses my mind first thing in the morning. How am I showing up? How am I being? Because that energy, that frame of being who I need to be, is going to allow me to do the things I need to do, right? If I don't feel motivated to do something that I know is something I enjoy doing, it's usually because I'm not in the right beingness, right? And it's like, I know that when I get out of my routine, like the last week has been a little bit weird. I've been like, I slept until 7:30 yesterday, and I was like, what's going on here? So I've been in a little bit of a funk, but I've also noticed that that's okay too. Like, I don't need to be, I've been doing this now for like the morning routine for 6 years. I'm like, I can have a couple bad days, right? But I also notice where, when I don't have that time to focus on being, the rest of the day just doesn't go as well. So I think it's, some people, everyone has a different practice, whether it's, meditation or working out. I know for me, if I can focus on, getting my mind centered, that's a big kind of beingness piece of my morning. I know that also, like, I like working out after I've done a bunch of work, because now my brain is like all over the place. And if I can get a good sweat on, it clears a lot of that out. So again, that brings me back into the being of more flow and focus, so that I can continue the rest of my day, with the right type of, I guess, focus to do what's important. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Is it's, because we can focus so much on do and grind and hustle and all that kind of stuff. But I also understand, like, there's a huge energetic component to success in life. And I'm a big believer in, you can't control everything. And I think one of the most important things we can control is our energy, is you know, this took me a long time to build in myself, but I think I do a very good job of it, is really like setting an intention for whatever that may be, and having zero doubt that it's going to come into your life, as opposed to like forcing the issue and worrying about it, because all of that doubt and worry blocks all that stuff from coming in. So it's this balance of like doing the work, but also being in a place where you're like, cool, I've done what I can do, and now I'm going to let the universe do what it's going to do, and being okay with that. And that's taken me a long time, but I think I'm in a really good place, at least now, compared to where I used to be. So, and I think that comes from experience, and just practice. So, yeah.
Yeah. And knowing how things go when you try to grind it out from the other way, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that it never gets you, like you might get to the milestone, but you're probably not going to enjoy the ride, right? Or
Yeah.
you can hustle to a certain point. And I think in business, there's a inflection point which you can't hustle past.
Hmm.
And a lot of this has to do with how you show up. So I love what you're saying. And also with the a lot of your brand pillars are based on this idea around money, right?
Hmm.
And how we think about money. And so what are some of the, you think are the limiting beliefs that people have about money, specifically when they're growing a business?
Yeah. I mean, like I talk about this a lot because our audience are health professionals who almost genetically feel they should be a martyr in the service of other people. Like it's so interesting.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, like I feel bad charging. I'm like, why should you? You're giving people the most precious thing in their life, which is their health. Like,
Hmm.
never feel bad about that. So a big part of my messaging is really helping people stand in their power, and not to say like making health inaccessible, but it's first and foremost like you have to fill up your cup. You have to put your mask on before assisting someone else as they stay on the airplanes. So I think there's a really, really big part of me that wants to empower health professionals specifically, because I think the work that that we do is arguably the most important for any human, and to never discount that. So that's like a big piece of what we help our clients step into. But I think there's just so much like, I don't know, I mean, there's obviously so many hangups around money, and I think it's based on, conditioning and how we were raised and what we saw and were told. We've all heard this stuff, right? Money was, doesn't grow on trees, that kind of stuff. But I mean, the thing is, and I share this from a perspective of, I mean, I lived in my early 20s on the amount of money I could fit in a paper cup on my table. Like that's really like where I was coming from. Like I'm not talking about coming from a place of where I grew up with a ton of money. I mean, our family was okay. Like we did well, or my parents did well, I should say. But I never saved anything. I had jobs when I was younger, and I had nothing to show for it because I spent everything. Because that's probably what I saw from my mom, who my parents were divorced, so largely raised me. And it took me a long time to really work through, how I manage or attract money. Obviously manage it so I could keep it, but also, how I showed up as kind of my own self-worth in the world.
Hmm.
When I started off working with clients one-on-one, I felt I was terrible at sales. I felt super awkward about asking for money from people because I thought it was just weird. And that took me a long time to get through. But I think I also didn't get the coaching and guidance that I needed. And that's one of the things that I really am proud of being able to provide now for those, who work with us, is that guidance and is that mindset around the fact that, listen, like the more money you make, the more you can help people. That's the way I see it. And the cool thing about money in the context of business is that money is it's a score. It's the score on the scoreboard. The more money you make, it's because you're making more impact in people's lives. Either you're helping more people or you're helping them at a deeper level. How they repay you is through monetary compensation. So if your business is doing great, it's because you're helping more people. If your business doesn't have a lot of money, well, you're not helping a lot of people. It's really that simple. And I think the the underlying assumption with all that is that the business in which you're doing your stuff is helpful to others. We're not talking about being an arms dealer and
You're
and
right.
like ridiculous stuff. Like I don't know why people think that, businesses are greedy and entrepreneurs. Like I'm like that's just a crock of nonsense. Because for the most part, all of us are doing good things on this planet, right? We're creating employments, we're creating solutions for people. How we get paid is a reflection of the impact we're making. So once you understand that, then it's like, great, like the more money I make, it means that I'm making more of a difference. The more money I have, the more I can contribute, not necessarily like giving back to charity, because I do think entrepreneurship is already paying it forward. I think, that whole argument's overplayed as well. But like you're providing employment, you're providing solutions, you're creating opportunities or solutions that never existed. And like how you get paid is how you get paid, right? Hundreds of thousands of years ago, you get paid in goats. Now we get paid in money. So I
Mhm.
think I think it's so fundamental to have a good money mindset, because if you have issues with money, you're going to sabotage your success. And I
Is there
think that's
any,
just, yeah.
it does say, is there any times that you think that that shows up subconsciously, like you're sabotaging your success because you're making more and more money and you don't even really realize it? It's not like, it's not overt. It's not like, oh, this person wants to pay me and I'm just not going to take the money. Like a lot of times, right, this shows up in the margins or it shows up in the subconscious. So where do you think this actually takes place for somebody who's maybe scaling, they're getting to the 7-figure mark, maybe they've crossed it, now they're going towards the 8-figure mark. Like how does this show up in the day-to-day?
Yeah, a couple ways. I mean, there's probably here's a few of many possible ways. I think for me, I remember when I started my business and I was starting to get traction. I was like, man, I don't know how big I want to go with this, because then I'm gonna have to pay more tax. Like
Yeah.
that was really like a belief that held me back for so long. I'm like, who cares? Like now it's like, if I pay more tax, that's just the way it is, right? It's because my business is making more money.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one thing. I think another thing too is the challenge of living in the Western world, which is kind of ironic that I would say that, but the challenge is that life is okay, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we can get to a good level of income and we're like, man, things are okay. Do I really need to keep pushing the envelope? Meh, maybe not. And I've seen this happen with myself and some friends in the space, where you get to a certain level and you just kind of coast. You get complacent, and I think it's
Yeah.
really challenging to, like, you have to go from, like, you have a set point here where life is comfortable. You got to find another way to get to the next level if you truly want to create something special. And I think that comes from just having a big vision and a big reason why beyond you and your needs, right? So like, yeah, you got the house, you got the car, you can travel, cool. All right, now that's all satisfied. What's the next thing? Like, what's the real compelling vision for why you're going to get up early in the morning and keep driving this business forward? I think all of us at some point get there, and
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of introspection that has to take place to recognize, oh, all right, I got that stuff good, but now I'm even more excited about the next level. And I don't know how long that process is for everyone. I think it's different, but I do think that's a big thing that holds people back, because I remember when I was playing soccer, I was invited to Brazil when I was 17, and I'm talking like, I'm playing with Sao Paulo FC at the time, one of the best teams in Brazil. And I remember, I'd be in the training ground with a lot of these guys who live there and on the verge of going pro. And for them, it was like, it's soccer or the favelas. Like, it was like, I play pro or I live in the slums. And it was like A or B. It wasn't like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I can go do this and this and this. In the Western world, in North America, it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, I still have a roof over my head. I can still cover the
Right.
basics. It's not that bad. I think that is more dangerous to live in that state. It's a very, very problematic place to live, because mediocrity, I believe, is one of the biggest pandemics of our current time. And people are okay just meeting the necessities. And I think that's shockingly disturbing, because their dream is on the other side of fear, or on the other side of an area of discomfort that they don't want to go through, because currently what they're experiencing it's not that bad. It's okay. And I think
Yeah.
that's the bigger issue.
Oh my gosh, I love that you're saying this. I feel like so many people get to this point, and I can just say for myself, that's absolutely where I was for a period of several years. I had closed my brick and mortar, pivoted online. So my 6-figure, very comfortable business was making more net than my multi 7-figure brick and mortar ever did. And I was just hanging out there for a couple of years, really comfortable, 3 kids, nice home, nice car. I've got my Labradoodle sleeping underneath my desk as we speak, like I'm living the dream, right?
Yeah.
every suburban mom, right? The same lifestyle, good school system, right? And there is that point, I think, where so many of us achievers crave more. So do you think that would define mediocrity or even a plateau that you're talking about when it comes to limited beliefs around money?
Yeah, totally. I think mediocrity is living as a fraction of who you know you can truly become.
Mm,
So let's say that I'll just use Richard Branson as an example. He's achieved amazing things in this world. He's done amazing things. In his own self-estimation of his own journey, maybe he doesn't think, or maybe he does, that he's at a, maybe he's achieved 70% of the true Richard Branson. I don't know. And maybe to him, that's mediocre, or maybe it's amazing, right? I think it's for each of us to decide. But I think the biggest thing is when you know you have more inside of you to give,
yeah.
and you're not, because
Yeah.
of fear, self-doubt, or other people's opinions. I think that is the biggest issue. And how that shows up in terms of someone's uh, mindset around money is, people who say like, well, money's not that important. It's like, yeah, like, and you'll never have enough. You'll never have more if you believe that. Money is very important if you live in the modern world where you need a roof over your head. And I think people confuse statements like money is important with money is everything, right? Money is not everything. But listen, if you can make more money and travel first class instead of the back of the plane, that's better, right? Money it allows you to experience life in a more enjoyable fashion, but it's not to say that money makes you happy, right? Like you have to do meaningful work. And in the pursuit of meaningful work and helping others, you make money. And if you have the choice to drive a nicer car than one that's broken down from the 1980s, why not, right? Never feel bad about that. If you want to have 5 cars instead of 1, don't feel bad about that. Again, live within your means. But I think there's a lot of worrying about what other people are going to think, or they just get comfortable where they are and they say, well, it's not all about the money. And they use that as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not saying it's all about the money, but you're using that as an excuse not to fulfill your true passion, right? If you fulfill the true dream that you're after, you should make more money and never feel bad about that. So
Yeah. I always laugh when people say that because the first visual that comes into my head is Jerry Maguire saying it's always about the money. But I agree with you, beyond it being about the money, it really is about who we get to become. So as we wrap up this interview, I'm curious, on the other side of this money conversation that we just had, which I think was so powerful, who do we get to become? Rather than the 5 cars and the big house and the donations we get to make, which is, for me, as somebody with a strong Enneagram 2 wing, gets excited about. But who do we get to become when we move through this challenge?
the true version of ourselves, right? It's like we are all, they tell us that we're operating with 10% of our brain capacity. Basically, that's like the same for who we truly are in this world, right? So if we have our true self up here, which is that inner voice that is knowing and is basically the best reflection of like your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to define it as. And then there's like how we show up in the world. For me personally, my goal in life is to get as close to this person as possible, so that when it's all done, I can meet myself on the other side and be like, or have that version of myself be like, dude, high five, you squeezed everything out of the lemon. What I don't want to have happen is get to the other side with regrets.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I should have done that thing, but I was too scared. I think, I shouldn't say never, but we rarely regret the things that we did do. We usually regret the things that we didn't do. And this is the thing that, I'm trying to help more people through, is really, understanding that if you say you want something, don't say you want that unless you truly want it. And if you truly want it, you'll do whatever you can to make it happen. So, becoming the best version of ourselves, I think, is really the true purpose of why we're here. And I think the whole money conversation is, excuse me, just the offshoot of that. It's like you should strive to become a billionaire because it's going to make you a better person, right? Not for the money. So, yeah.
That's so interesting. So the manifesto for your company, Healthpreneur, is be great, do great. In what word, if you can summarize it in one word, what do you think the secret is for that?
Again, I think it's pursuing the calling you have inside of you.
Mm,
And I think if we don't pursue that, that's where misery starts to creep in.
yeah, so good. And if people want to connect with you, if they're a health entrepreneur and think, oh, this is my person. I really, really want to learn from him. What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, we have a podcast called The Healthpreneur Show. So
Cool.
that's a good place to listen into some of similar dialogues. I'm on Instagram at Healthpreneur. And then our main website is healthpreneurgroup.com. Yeah, so those are probably the three best places, and happy to continually support our community with great content and inspiration. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura. It was awesome.